The Elephant in the Room by Fiona Dobson. Read by Joel Sanderson. Welcome to the elephant. The elephant in the social media room, said the receptionist. How can I help you? Actually, I'm Mr. Tusk, said the man in the suit, expecting the pretty young receptionist to respond. He was shorter than she'd imagined. Oh, Mr. Tusk, Mr. Davis, our Human Resources Director, left this for you, she said as she handed him a note. You just missed him. Oh, he said there's an envelope on your desk in the office. Oh, he said, taking the folded piece of paper and smiling to himself. Excellent, he did as I asked. He murmured, Fired the lot. I'm sorry, said the receptionist. Oh, Davis did as I asked and got rid of half the staff. A good start to the week. The receptionist forced a smile and went back to checking her Facebook feed on the computer before her. Do you have my passkey? Said Mr. Tusk. Since I own the company now, I think I should get into my office. Mr. Tusk nodded towards the glass door that led to the executive offices, noting that the added security he had asked for had been installed. Ah, yes, sir, said the receptionist and consulted a file. You'll need to go to services on the 3rd floor. Mr. Tusk looked irritated, turned and walked to the elevator. They really should have taken care of this. This young receptionist seemed a little surly as well. He'd talked to, what was her name? That assistant they'd found for him. He'd talked to her anyway. Perhaps they could find someone a little more welcoming. Before stepping into the elevator, Mr. Tusk turned to the receptionist and asked, where's the other girl, the one that was here on Friday? She left, sir, came the reply. The agency sent me over. He turned and stepped into the elevator. On the 3rd floor, he was immediately struck by the fact that there was no one around. Well, I suppose it was to be expected, he thought. Good old Davis. He had fired half the staff. It was hardly surprising that some would be gone from services. He walked down the quiet corridor. He found the silence a little eerie. In fact, there wasn't a soul on this floor. The doors all stood open. Not a single person. Tusk, feeling a little unsettled, turned and walked back to the elevator. Halfway down to the ground floor, the elevator stopped. Tusk pressed the buttons to try and get it moving again. He picked up the emergency handset, but no one responded. After 10 minutes, the elevator started to move of its own volition. Back at reception, Tusk looked at the young woman behind the desk with increasing discomfort. When do they get back to the office? Said Tusk, looking around the place. I don't know, sir, came the reply. They didn't tell me that at the agency. From the executive offices, Tusk could hear phones ringing, going unanswered. You'd better let me in so I can take care of, and he nodded towards the executive suite. Take care of things. I'm sorry, replied the receptionist. I don't have a passkey for that area. Security. Oh, said Tusk. He remembered to ask the head of security to tighten things up a little. It made sense. Well then, he said, I'd better just get someone to let me in. With that, he went and sat on an expensive white leather seat by a coffee table in the waiting area. He proceeded to call in order 4 of his VPs, all of which went directly to voicemail. What's going on here? Said Tusk to no one in particular. The receptionist looked up at him and said, I'd make you coffee, but I can't get into the coffee area. The agency said someone would show me, but no one's come in. Tusk looked at her with confusion. What do you mean, no one's come in? The receptionist looked at him with a look of contempt. No one's come in, Mr. Tusk. They can't just not come in, he replied, getting to his feet. The receptionist was also on her feet now. She was placing a notepad back in her handbag and gathering a few of her things. Where do you think you're going? Said Tusk. Oh, I'm just a temp. I only agreed to come in for an hour. Just filling in. I think the agency said your usual girls have quit. You'll have to call them. With that, she took the last of her personal effects and placed them in her bag or her pockets and started walking toward the door. Wait, said Tusk. The young lady stopped and turned to the agitated, pallid-looking man. Can I help you? Where is everyone? Said Tusk. I really don't know. Perhaps you should talk to Human Resources. Mr. Davis said he'd left his resignation on your desk. Perhaps someone else will be in, though. She let it hang there. "What do you mean?" said Tusk. "Well, I don't think you're going to find anyone. The server team all quit, or so I'm told, and the legal department figured they'd best jump before the place tanked. In fact, it's going to be a little lonely in this building. Oh, and the elevator's on the blink. You might want to get that looked at." Mr. Tusk looked at the elevator. "How do I do that?" he asked. "I don't know. They didn't tell me at the agency." "I see." As her heels tapped their way to the huge glass doors of the company facade, Mr. Tusk realized he probably now owned one of the biggest empty buildings in the US. It certainly was the most expensive. The young lady pushed the door open and turned and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Tusk. Perhaps you could have been, nicer." With that, the only other occupant of the company left the building. The phones rang, some lights blinked from a server room behind glass, and Mr. Tusk looked at the security door to the executive offices and realized he had made a terrible mistake.